Hello, in this video I'm going to speak about the steel deck, and in different parts of the world they call it corrugated sheets. I have a sample of the steel deck or the corrugated sheets here to go through them together, and in this topic we'll speak about how to choose the steel deck and how to install it and what are the different types of the steel deck available in the market. So as you can see here, the cross section of the steel deck is not straight, and that's what gives us the stability of the steel deck, or it gives also a lot of rigidity. Now this depth, which is here 38 millimeter, it varies because we have different types of profile. One is 38 and one is 52 and the other one is 76. It depends on the profile or the spacing between the beams. You can choose the right profile. The other difference also between the steel deck is the thickness of this material. You can see this thickness of the sheets here. You have different type of thickness, and based on that also it gives you different flexibility or different stiffness for the steel deck. The main difference between the roofing steel deck and the composite flooring steel deck is the notched or the profile change or embossment in the profile to provide a composite action. When you have the notched or the non-smooth steel deck surface, that can provide a bond between the concrete and the steel deck, which can be used as a composite flooring. If you have a smooth surface, then that can be used as roofing material, which you can put at the top of that gravel or rigid insulation, but without a composite flooring material as a concrete. If we go through the slides, you can see here you have the different thickness. It starts from 76 millimeter, 0.76 millimeter to 1.52 millimeters. And when you provide or when you install the steel deck on the beam comes underneath it like my hand like that. And then you can weld the steel deck from the lower point from the floats to the top flange, and you have different pattern of the welding. And based on this pattern, if you are a structural engineer, you have to specify the pattern because that can give you flexibility index for the diaphragm. If you are a construction manager or project manager, you have to follow the structure drawing and guide your installer about the different fastener pattern. Then another thing also between the installation of the steel deck with the steel beam underneath it and also the next steel deck, because they come with a specific width, most of the time 914 millimeter. And here if you can see that it will come with the other end of the steel deck, so they can come together, and then you can have the bond, the side lab, what we call it side lab, and this side lab will be connected together with a button bunch welding. So as you can see here in the slides, that's here is the connection between the side labs. And here, if you put your steel deck above the steel beams, you can have the longitudinal welds along the side of the building and the transverse weld, which is here in the floats, as I mentioned. And that's very important to provide the exact connection, because that will determine the diaphragm flexibility index for you. And here you can see the side lab connection between the two parts of the steel deck. Now, if you have another framing point, or framing system, which will be steel beams or girder, and then you have a steel joist at the edges here, you can see the difference between the top level, and in this case you have to provide additional shear transfer at the specific intervals, and then you can connect your steel deck to the shear transfer, and also you can weld your steel deck to the joist. Now, why we are using this? We are using the steel deck because it is eliminates the formwork, and that means it can save in time and money for our clients, and also it can reduce the amount of reinforcing bars, because that's here is the design of that can be it will be designed based on the composite action, and composite flooring is not as concrete floor with a minimum reinforcement as we used to do that with the concrete slabs. The other thing is also we can use the steel deck here on the steel beam as we saw, and we can put in the floats here shear studs, and these shear studs will provide the composite action for the beams. And in our project, we compared between using the shear studs or without using the shear studs, and we found out that we can save about 20% of the tonnage of the steel for our client per floor if we use steel shear studs on the beam. So you can create a composite steel beam and with providing shear studs, and with the shear studs you can save about 20% of the steel tonnage for your client, and that's per floor, is not the total but just per floor. And also the different types of the steel deck will determine the tonnage of the concrete. We create a different study of the different types of the steel deck, and we found out which one can save some concrete tonnage to our client. Now, who are the providers in North America for the steel deck? Mainly we have three main provider. One is the Can-Am, and the other one is the Vicwest, and the third one is Fullcraft. So as I mentioned, there are different types, different companies, and if you have any question, please contact us. Thanks for watching.